What you're about to hear is not fiction. It isn't folklore. And it certainly isn't a tale born from nightmares, because no nightmare could match the horrors that history has already written. This is the story of a man kept alive by science long after his body had given up, and of a regime that turned newborns into ashes, and their homeland into a mass grave. Two tragedies, one in sterile silence, the other in screaming fields, both united by a single truth: human cruelty knows no limits. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. So sit tight as we dive into today's mystery, and you will have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Part 1. Hisashi Ouchi, the man who melted alive. In the sterile halls of the University of Tokyo Hospital, a man lay clinging to something far worse than life. He was suspended in an experiment of suffering. His name was Hisashi Ouchi, and he would become known not as a survivor of a nuclear accident, but as the most irradiated human being in history, a title he paid for with 83 agonizing days of unspeakable pain. The story begins on September 30th, 1999, in the small town of Tokemura, Japan, a quiet place that had become the heart of Japan's nuclear ambitions. Ouchi was a technician working for the Japan Nuclear Fuel Conversion Company, a company rushing to meet a deadline and willing to sacrifice safety to do it. That morning, Hisashi and two colleagues were instructed to mix a new batch of nuclear fuel. What they weren't told or trained for was how deadly the task truly was. Instead of using proper, automated equipment, they were ordered to manually pour enriched uranium into containers, 7 times the allowed amount, with bare hands and steel buckets. At 10:35 a.m., they breached critical mass. A brilliant blue flash flooded the room, the telltale sign of a nuclear chain reaction. Invisible waves of death gamma radiation shot out. The 3 men didn't know it yet, but the countdown to a slow and horrific demise had begun. Hisashi, standing closest to the tank, bore the brunt. His exposure, 17 sieverts, over double the level considered unsurvivable. He vomited, collapsed, and was rushed to the hospital, already slipping into unconsciousness. But the worst was only beginning. His white blood cell count dropped to near zero. He no longer had an immune system. He began weeping blood. His skin blistered, sloughed off, and refused to heal. In a desperate bid to save him, doctors placed him in an isolation ward and initiated experimental treatments never before used on radiation victims. Stem cell therapy, skin grafts, blood transfusions. His DNA was completely shattered. Photos of his chromosomes revealed complete fragmentation. The cells from his sister, donated to regenerate his body, were instantly annihilated by the radiation still coursing through his veins. His skin could not graft. His body was liquefying. Still, he was conscious, and still he begged for it to stop. "I can't take it anymore," he whispered. "I am not a guinea pig." But his family, clinging to hope, insisted on resuscitation. And so the doctors obeyed. On day 59, his heart stopped. He was revived. Again and again. 3 heart attacks in 1 hour. Each time he died, he returned more broken, more brain damaged, more hollow. Finally, on December 21st, 1999, Ouchi's body shut down. After 83 days of hell, he was gone. His colleague, Masato Shinohara, died months later from organ failure. Only their supervisor, Yutaka Yakakawa, survived with minor radiation sickness, and later faced criminal charges for negligence. The Tokemura facility paid out millions in damages. But no amount of money could erase what had been done. The man whose body melted, revived again and again by science, not for life but to delay death. Part 2. The Smoke Babies of Cambodia, the horror of the Khmer Rouge. While Hisashi Ouchi suffered in the silence of radiation, a far more invisible terror haunted Cambodia. Not in days or weeks, but across 4 years of darkness. Under the Khmer Rouge, death did not come from science. It came from ideology. On April 17, 1975, Cambodia fell under the rule of Pol Pot, the brutal leader of the Khmer Rouge. With a warped vision of creating a communist utopia, he ordered a total reset of Cambodian society. He called it Year Zero. Cities were emptied. Money was abolished. Religion outlawed. Schools and hospitals were shut down. Professionals, doctors, teachers, artists, were executed for being intellectuals. In some cases, merely wearing glasses could mean death. What followed was one of the worst genocides in human history. Over 2 million Cambodians, nearly a quarter of the population, were executed or died from starvation, illness, and overwork. People were clubbed to death, buried alive, left to rot in mass graves. But amidst the horror, there are stories that still curdle the blood. Survivors whisper about the smoke babies. The term comes from children born in the killing fields, often murdered moments after birth. Many were burned. Others were thrown into pits. Mothers were sometimes forced to watch or worse, to comply. These babies never had a name. Only smoke and ash remain. Retired Ottawa Police Superintendent Isabel Granger, who investigated crimes of the Khmer Rouge decades later, described a man in his 50s collapsing in tears during an interview. He recalled finding a ditch full of bodies while tending cattle as a boy. One misstep and he fell in. Scrambling out, he tried to scrub off the blood with water, terrified someone might see him. Another woman, trembling, told Granger how she cried after being left behind while her family was taken on a truck. Later, she learned they were taken to a mass grave. Her sorrow had saved her. Justice for the millions of dead has remained elusive. Pol Pot died peacefully in 1998, never facing trial. Only 3 Khmer Rouge leaders were convicted before the tribunal shut down in 2022. One of the regime's architects, Hun Sen, who once served under Pol Pot, later became Cambodia's prime minister and ruled for decades. His family remains in power. Survivors like Bokhara Bun, now living in Canada, remember the silence, the paranoia, the smell of death in the wind. He says Cambodia became the worst hell on earth, and yet the world barely noticed. The Khmer Rouge destroyed more than lives. They shattered a culture. They turned neighbors into executioners, children into orphans, and the fields of Cambodia into open-air graves. These are not just stories. They are warnings of how fragile life is, how power corrupts, and how sometimes the most terrible fate is not to die, but to be kept alive inside a living nightmare. Never forget. Never repeat. Feel free to leave your comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more mysteries like this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.